This is a brief introduction of the chapter. Now we'll be moving to the chapter outline. The first thing that we are going to talk about is FE line, full employment line. Now where it comes from, FE line will be the representative curve of labor market, and we'll be deriving the FE line from equilibrium of labor market. And we know that labor market is in equilibrium when labor demand and labor supply are equal to each other. Similarly, we'll be discussing the equilibrium in goods market using, and we'll be deriving the representative curve of goods market, that is IS curve, the second representative curve of second market, that is goods market. And then we'll be looking at the asset market equilibrium using a representative curve called LM curve. So all three types of markets will be combined together to make a model known as ISLM model. So we'll be assuming the closed economies model, price level is fixed because uh, John Hicks assumed that prices are going to remain fixed because we are going to analyze the economy in the short run. So that is why we need to assume about these assumptions. After that, we'll be talking about price adjustment and the attainment of equilibrium. If there's a shock that hits the economy in one or other way, how long will it take prices to adjust, and how long will it take the economy to go back into the previous equilibrium? So that will bring us to the discussion of classical and Keynes. Like, they had a disagreement from the beginning on the price adjustment. Classical say that there's a quick price adjustment. Keynes are of the opinion that no, it's a price adjustment is slow. So because of slow adjustment of price, a recession or a shock might affect the economy in various ways, like a larger unemployment and a loss of output. So to minimize that, we need to bring in the government. So we'll be looking at their views. And in last, we'll be revising again the aggregate demand supply model to study the impact of shocks on the economy, because we have already done it in the previous chapter. So now let's get started with the first uh, market equilibrium, that is labor market equilibrium. In chapter 3, we said that labor market of an economy is a market that shows the demand of the employers for the employees, and interaction between demand and supply of labor is going to determine the overall number of employed workers that are going to be used by the different businesses, or different kinds of labor are to be employed by various firms. So we call that employment level. The amount of workers out of total labor force who are employed are actively working in various occupations to satisfy their basic needs, let's say. So that is the total employment level. But here we'll be needing a representative curve of the labor market. So we'll be finding out the labor market equilibrium using some assumptions. Like, we'll be saying that labor market will be operating at its full employment level, like all the labor available in the country will be fully utilized. If we assume this kind of assumption that all the labor in the country will be fully utilized, so employment N is equal to N bar. So in this way, we would say that full employment level of employment is the employment equilibrium employment level, and resulting output that you will get from that employment level will be known as full employment output. So this is a difference between the full employment level of employment and output. And from that, we'll be deriving the representative curve of labor market. So let's do it. Known as the uh, are known as the equilibrium points of all the points along the FE line are going to represent the equilibrium points of labor market equilibrium. Now we'll be talking about the factors that may bring a shift in the FE line. Now all the factors that may change the equilibrium of labor market are going to change the FE line in positive or negative way, or it will shift the FE line towards right or left. So what are those factors? The full employment level of output is determined by the full employment level of employment and the current levels of capital and productivity. So any change in these variables will shift the FE line. What does that mean? It means that full employment level is determined by the full employment output is determined by full employment level of employment. So one factor, shifting factor will be employment. So when employment increases, output will increase and FE line will shift right side. Similarly, when capital stock increases, demand for labor will increase and employment will increase. In this way, output will increase and FE line will shift right side. In the same fashion, the increase in productivity of both labor and capital or one of the factors will make will increase the employment of that factor and ultimately bring an increase in the output level. So productivity is a third factor that may shift the FE line towards rightward. So here we are with the list of three factors that may bring a shift in FE line. So the full employment line shifts right because of these factors. So let's talk about the first one, the beneficial supply shock. A shock is said to be beneficial when it raises the productivity of already existing inputs, labor and capital, and ultimately multiplies the output that can be produced with those amounts of labor and capital. So when output increase, the FE line will shift right side in response to a beneficial supply shock. So now you know the term. Beneficial supply shock is a shock that raises the productivity of already existing labor and capital and ultimately increases the employment and output of a firm. So ultimately, it would bring a right side shift in the FE line, keeping everything else same. Similarly, an increase in labor supply. By labor supply here means the stock of skilled worker in the country is increasing. So an increase in the stock of skilled worker will ultimately increases the demand for labor or employment will increase. When employment will increase, it will ultimately bring an increase in the output. So FE line will shift right side in response to an increase in labor supply. Third and last factor is an increase in capital stock. When the capital stock increases, the firms are going to increase their employment level as well. So employment increases along with the increase in capital stock, which will ultimately increases the output level. So FE line will shift right side in response to these factors. And if there's an adverse supply shock, FE line will shift leftward because already existing labor and capital will get less productive when there's a negative supply shock. So it will reduce the supply of economy. Output supply will fall. And in response to it, FE line will shift backward, leftward, and keeping everything else in. So this is a summary of the factors. For example, a beneficial supply shock will shift the FE line right side. Why? Because more output can be produced for the same amount of capital and labor. Second, with a beneficial supply shock, MPN increases, which raises the labor demand and raises the employment level. So when employment increases, output is definitely going to increase. Increase in labor supply will shift the FE line rightward. Why? Because because of increase in labor supply, there would be an increase in equilibrium employment level. So when the equilibrium employment level is changing, it will increase the full employment level of output. Thirdly, we have increase in capital stock. So if capital stock is one of the factor of production. So when capital stock available to the firm increases in quantity in number, more output can be produced with the same amount of labor. Similarly, in addition to increased capital, may increase the MPN of the workers, which will ultimately increase the labor demand and increases the equilibrium output. So these are the shifting factors, three shifting factors of the full employment line, the representative curve of labor market. So let's apply this knowledge to we are we are discussing here now the shifting factors of uh, shifting factors of FE line. So I told you that uh, let's bring in one factor. Let's say adverse supply shock, which was not in the table. Adverse supply shock. Let's say. So you know that adverse supply shock is going to uh, ultimately decrease the employment level of the firms, and when employment level decreases, the output that the firm can produce will also fall. So we are going to show its impact on FE line. Impact of a negative supply shock. We have interest rate on vertical axis and output on horizontal axis. And we have already given one FE line of the as a representative curve of labor market. So this is equal to Y bar. This is fixed at Y bar. Now what is happening? You know that a negative or adverse supply shock is going to reduce the productivity of already existing labor and capital and reduces the employment level that will ultimately decline that will ultimately result in a decline in output. So the FE line will shift leftward in response to a negative supply shock. So in this way, it shifts backward from Y1 bar to any other level, Y2 bar. So this is a decline in output as a result of negative supply shock. So if it would have been a positive supply shock, the output supply would have increased from Y1 bar to any higher level towards right side, Y2 bar. So you may apply all the knowledge of shifting factors by yourself. So I'm going to end the discussion of uh, labor market representative curve here. Now we need to, once we got the idea of first market representative curve, that is represent labor market representative curve, which we call FE line. Now we are going to talk about the equilibrium in goods market, and we'll derive this equilibrium of the goods market from the goods market. We'll derive the goods market equilibrium, or we'll derive the representative curve of goods market equilibrium, which is known as IS curve. And how do we do this? We know that equilibrium in the labor market is found when aggregate demand in the economy is equal to aggregate supply. Aggregate supply is determined by the labor market, and aggregate demand is dependent on desired consumption, desired investment by businesses, and government purchases in the country. You know this. And another way of explaining the goods market equilibrium is by equating aggregate, like goods market equilibrium is found when desired savings are equal to desired investment in the country. So these are two ways of defining the goods market equilibrium. But why the representative curve of goods market is known as IS curve? It is known as IS curve because it is called investment saving curve. Because the goods market equilibrium is found using by equating the investment and saving in the country. So we call the representative of goods market, which is IS curve, as investment saving. So let's derive the uh, goods market representative curve. Talking about the shifting factors. shifting factors of IS curve, right? So, so one of the shifting factors that the book has taken is increase in government purchases. So when you know that when government purchases are going to increase, there's a decrement in the national savings. So desired savings are going to fall. So when desired saving is going to fall, the goods market equilibrium will disturb in a way that there would be lower savings than investment in the economy, or there would be larger investment compared to savings in the economy. So how would this equilibrium be restored? There would be an there would be a there would be an upward pressure on the interest rate. So when interest rate will increase, the user cost will increase, and when user cost increases, the investment is going to fall. So again, the economy will reaches to its equilibrium. But how would it affect the IS curve? So this is the adjustment process of goods market equilibrium, right? You know that G is one of the component of aggregate demand. When government purchases are going to increase, aggregate demand will increase. Or alternatively, you can say that when government is increasing its purchases, uh, there's a decline in national saving. So when national savings are going to decline, there's an increase in consumption as well. So consumption is increasing here, which is causing aggregate demand to increase. That is why there would be an upward shift of the IS curve. So let me show you here how this is working. So so let's draw the equilibrium first, goods market equilibrium, and then IS curve. We can show the goods market equilibrium here. This is the investment, desired savings, and this is the equilibrium interest rate. Let's say 7%, and this is the saving investment quantity. Now the goods market is in equilibrium at point, let's say at point A, and here we have IS curve in the right panel, interest rate and output. We have already given one IS curve. So suppose the income level is fixed at 4,000, right? And we have given one IS curve. This is IS curve, right? Now we are going to apply the impact of increase in government purchases, right? So we know that an increase in government purchase is going to reduce the desired savings. So desired saving curve would shift. This is the interest rate, and desired saving curve would shift backward in response to increase in government purchase this way. So now at a 7% interest rate, there is lower saving compared to investment in the economy, because investment is at point A and the saving is at point B. So this holds true. Now how would this equilibrium be restored? There would be an increment in the interest rate from 7%. So interest rate increases. When interest rate is going to increase, the user cost will increase. Because of increase in user cost, investment will decrease from point A and move to point C. At point C, again, the saving investment, new saving curve and the investment curve are intersecting. So the economy is back to its, the goods market is back to its equilibrium at 9%. Now, how does it will affect the IS curve at a fixed output, level? When the government increased its spending, there was a decline in national savings, but simultaneously consumption increased. So because of increase in consumption, aggregate demand has increased. So at this 9% interest rate, the output would stay the same. But the IS curve will shift upward, up and to the right. So this is the shifting up, IS curve up and to the right. This is IS2 after the increase in government purchases. So here the output is remaining same, but interest rate has increased because of increase in government purchases. And IS curve has shifted because aggregate demand increased in response to increase in government purchases. So we saw the impact of increase in government purchases on the IS curve. Now we'll be discussing other factors. What are the other factors that change that will bring a shift in the IS curve? So anything that changes the goods market equilibrium, anything that changes the goods market equilibrium will shift the IS curve. But what is the easiest way to remember, or what is the easiest way to keep in mind that whether the IS curve will shift up and to the right at a fixed output, whether the IS curve will shift up and to the right or down towards left. So it depends on the movement of interest rate. In what direction the interest rate is moving. Here the interest rate has increased because of increase in government purchases. So when the interest rate will increase at a fixed output, IS curve will shift up and to the right. And when interest rate decrease from 7% to 6%, IS curve will shift down and towards left. So this is a way of remembering in what direction IS curve would shift. So let me explain other factors in a very brief summary. So this is a list of factors that would bring upward shift, up and rightward shift into the IS curve, like the one we saw in the diagram. This one, up and towards right, like from E to F at a fixed level of output. What are these factors? The first factor is increase in expected future income. You know from the discussion of fourth chapter, whenever the future income of the individual, whenever people are expecting that their future income is rising, they are going to increase their consumption, and current consumption would increase and savings are going to decrease by that amount. So in response to lower savings, there would be a disequilibrium in the goods market that would be adjusted by the increase in interest rate. And when the interest rate will increase, again the investment will decrease from one point to another point, and again the saving investment are in equilibrium, or the goods market will get back to its equilibrium. So at a higher interest rate now, there is lower investment, and there is lower investment, but when because of increase in consumption, aggregate demand has increased. So IS curve will shift at a fixed output towards up and to the right, like the one that we saw previously. So this is how we summarize it. And another factor that is the shifting factor of IS, which shifts the IS curve up and to the right, is the wealth. So whenever people become wealthy, they are going to increase their consumption. So saving is going to fall. So when saving is going to fall, interest rate will increase and saving investment will be in equilibrium at a lower point. And because of decrease in saving, an increase in consumption will produce an increase in aggregate demand. So at a fixed output, IS curve will shift up and to the right. Government purchase has already been discussed. I am going to talk about the impact of decline in taxes. There are two views on decline in taxes. One is Ricardian equivalence that assumes that people are more smarter whenever the government is providing them lower, let's say government is decreasing the tax rates. So people income is increasing, but they are not spending it. Why? Because they are sure that government will take back this income or extra income that they have received because of decrease in taxes. So if they have this view that the tax cut today will be applied as a tax reversal, tax increase in future. So they are not spending it. So there would be no change in the goods market equilibrium, and there would be no change in the IS curve because of the Ricardian equivalence. In response to lower taxes, there would be no change on the goods market equilibrium, and there would be no change on the IS curve because IS curve is a representative curve of goods market equilibrium. Another view is if we relax the assumption of futuristic nature of people and assume that people are very much present looking, they only consider the present time rather than forward looking. So how would this affect their choice of consumption and saving in the current time and the goods market equilibrium? When the tax is being declined by the government, people people's income will increase and they would use their extra income by consuming more. And when consumption increases, savings are going to fall. And when saving decrease, the interest rate would increase to bring back the goods market into equilibrium. But because of increase in consumption, aggregate demand would increase. And in response to increase in aggregate demand, IS curve will shift up and to the right. So this is how a decline in tax may produce two opposing effects. One, no effect on the IS curve, and a decline in tax might shift the IS curve up and to the right because of increase in consumption. Uh, Third point is right after it, like if the expected future marginal product of capital increases, firms are going to increase their desired investment. So the investment curve would shift right side. So we can go back to the diagram. So in this diagram, investment curve would shift upward. And when investment curve would shift upward, so there would be an increase in interest rate that clears the goods market equilibrium. Because of the increase in investment, the IS curve will shift at a fixed output up and to the right because aggregate demand has increased because of more investment by the firm. So this is how you can apply the knowledge of shifting factors. In last, if there's a decrease in effective tax rate on capital, there's a decrease in tax that is paid by businesses while buying the capital. So they would buy now because the tax rate has decreased, the capital cost has been decreased. Now firms will buy more capital and the demand for capital increase, which will ultimately increase the investment in the economy. So when investment increase, aggregate demand increase, and at a fixed output level, IS curve will shift up and towards right. So this is a summary of shifting factors of IS curve. This summary is also given here. So we have talked about the shifting factors of IES curve. So this is a list of, this is a summary where the impact is summarized. So let's first review some impacts, and then we have already talked about this in detail. So better if you would go through it by yourself. So I'm going to start the third market equilibrium, and the third representative curve that we are going to talk about is the representative curve of asset market, the LM curve. So before I start, so they were needing more money. So when when the when the income increased, it resulted an increase in money demand. So money demand curve shifted. Uh, so the money demand curve shifted upward in response to increase in income. So this is the new money demand curve. So this is the new money demand curve after the change in income. Let's say this is a, we need to draw it more accurately. So this is a new money demand curve, right? So this is real money demand curve at an income level of 5,000. Now at this interest rate, there is an excess demand for money. How much people are needing money? They are needing 200 more units of money, but the available money is 1,000 in the country. Now, how would the economy, how would the asset market be back to its equilibrium? Now, people will fulfill their demand for money by selling off their non-monetary asset like stocks, bonds. They when everyone in the country is selling their non-monetary asset, there would be an increase in the price of those assets, which will like there would be a decrease in the price of those assets. Like here we said that when everyone is selling their non-monetary asset, the price of non-monetary asset is going to fall, which will ultimately increase the interest rate. So interest rate would go up. Interest rate would go up from 7% to any other value. So interest rate would continue to rise. When interest rate starts rising, the money demand would start falling. So here money demand is falling, and again money demand and money supply are equal at a higher interest rate, which is equal to, let's say, 9%. At this 9% interest rate, asset market is again in equilibrium. Now this was the initial point A. At this 9% interest rate, this 9% interest rate belongs to a larger output level, which is 5,000, which is 5,000. So if you just join these two equilibrium points, you would get a curve that is known as LM curve, which is a positive slope curve. And it is positive slope because increase in income, keeping everything else same, raises the money demand, and larger money demand raises the rate of interest that clears the asset market. So we can say here that asset market is in equilibrium. We can say here that asset market is positive. The LM curve is positive slope. LM curve summarizes all the points of asset market equilibrium, because larger income means larger money demand, and larger money demand means larger interest rate. So there's a positive relationship between income and interest rate that is being summarized by LM. We will look into its shifting factor. Now we know the adjustment process of the asset market equilibrium. So this is the LM curve that we derived, and how the asset market went again into equilibrium at a larger interest rate is represented here, right? So now we'll be talking about the shifting factors of LM curve. Let me just directly come to the summary. So first shifting factor will be like the shifting factor of LM curve will be nominal money supply. So when nominal money supply increases, the real money supply will increase because prices are constant. So when nominal money supply is increasing, real money supply will increase. And when real money supply increases, there would be more money available in the country than people are needing. So how they will use that extra money? They will start buying non-monetary asset. And when they start buying non-monetary asset, there would be an increase uh, in the price of those assets. When the price of those assets increase, the interest rate on those assets is going to fall. In this way, the asset market will again be back to its equilibrium. So let me show you here. I'll show one example, and then you will be doing others by yourself. We are talking about shifting factors of LM curve. Okay, now we are talking about the shifting factors of LM curve. So LM curve will shift when all the factors that change the asset market equilibrium are going to change. So let's first start with the first example. We said that one of the factor that change the asset market equilibrium is nominal money supply, M. So when nominal money supply is increasing, real money supply will increase. And when real money supply increases, there would be excess supply of money. There would be more supply of money then there would be more demand for money compared to that. So there would be more excess supply of money than the demand for money. This would lead to a disequilibrium in the asset market. Now, when there is more money available than people are needing, uh, so so when there's more money available in the system than people are needing, so people will use that money to buy non-monetary asset. When they are going to buy non-monetary asset, the price of non-monetary asset will go up. This leads to a decline in interest rate. And when interest rate declines, the money demand is going to increase. So money demand will increase, and again, there would be backward movement. Like money demand will again be equals to money supply, like money demand will be back to its original value. That is, money demand and money supply are again equal. So this is a way through which equilibrium is achieved. Now let's apply this on a diagram. This is one example. You have various examples through which you can show a shift in the LM curve. So let's say this is the initial equilibrium, interest rate and quantity of money. And in the right panel we have LM curve, interest rate and output. So we have vertical money supply, real money supply, and we have money demand. Here's the equilibrium, interest rate that is 7%, and this is 1000. And we have one LM curve given at income of 4000, suppose. So this is LM curve already given, LN1. Now what is happening? There's an increase in the nominal money supply, means this is changing. So prices are constant, so real money supply curve will shift. Real money supply curve will shift towards rightward. So in response to increase in nominal money supply, this is P, and when there is an increase in nominal money supply, the real money supply curve would shift from this value. This is a new real money supply curve, MP2, right? After this shift, there is an excess supply of money in the country. Like money supply is here and money demand is at point A. Now there's more money than people are needing. How they would use that money? They will go and buy non-monetary asset. When everyone is buying the non-monetary asset, the price of non-monetary asset will increase, and the return on non-monetary asset is going to fall. So when the return on non-monetary asset is going to fall, money demand will increase from point A and reaches to point B. And at this point, money demand and money supply are again equal at, let's say, 1100, value of 1100, suppose, right? So and at a lower interest rate than 7%. So this is 5% interest rate. How does this change affects the LM curve? As you know that LM curve, as you know that interest rate decreased in response to increase in money supply. The LM curve will shift, and LM curve will shift in what direction? LM curve will shift down and towards left at a fixed level of output. So at a fixed level of output, 4000, so output won't change. So LM curve at this, like LM curve at this interest rate would shift down and towards right. So it would shift downward. It would shift downward. So this is a new LM curve after the decrease in nominal money supply, that is LM2. Now when the price level is going to change, when the price level is going to change, the real money supply will decrease. Like when the price level is going to increase, the real money supply is going to decrease. real money supply falls, it would raise the real interest rate that clears the asset market. So when interest rate is going to increase, LM curve will shift up and to the left, up and to the left. So it is again the movement of interest rate that will guide you in what direction the LM curve will shift. With the increase in price level, there's a decrease in real money supply. And when real money supply is decreasing, the interest rate that clears the asset market is increasing. So when interest rate is increasing, LM curve will shift up and to the left. Now in our case LM curve, like in this case, then in this case, like here, when the real money supply, uh, because of, let's say, when the real money supply increased because of increase in nominal money supply from 1000 to 1200, the interest rate decreased. So when the interest rate decreased, LM curve shifted down and towards right. But if suppose that if reverse would have happened, if now real money supply decreased from MS2 to MS1, there would be increase in the increase in the interest rate that clears the asset market. In this way, there would be a upward and leftward shift on the LM curve at a fixed output of 4000. Like this arrow would be pointing towards backward. Similarly, uh, an increase in the expected inflation will cause people to demand less money. And when money demand decreases, this would lower the interest rate that clears the asset market. So when interest rate is going to decrease, LM curve will shift down and towards right at a fixed level of output. When nominal interest rate on money increases, the demand for money will increase. And this increase in demand for money will increase the real interest rate that clears the asset market. And this would bring a shift in the LM curve upward and towards leftward. If we would be doing